Marvel Rivals has a lot of story, and it is my job to catch you up so you can keep playing the game. Welcome to our timeline series, and this episode is one of our definitive editions, I guess you can say. Because at the time of this release, the timeline features every single hero story, gallery card, and comic book from season 0, 1, and 2. If you're new here, the stories that we have already covered in past versions of the timeline are now condensed into quick recaps, and near the end of this timeline, there are stories that we are covering for the very first time where we go in depth on all the details in those stories. In the description, we have timestamps for every story, but if you want to help support the video and the channel overall, I encourage you to please watch the video as long as you can. If you would like to support even further, leave a like on the video and consider sending in a super thanks. Speaking of which, Amari left a super thanks on the previous timeline, and I appreciate everyone's support. And one more thing, before we begin, go down the comments, let me know which Professor Xavier you like more, Patrick Stewart or James McAvoy. For me, I think James McAvoy is very underrated, but I also think that it is about that time. Doctor Doom visits Doctor Strange at the Sanctum Sanctorum, requesting access to the vampiric verses from the Book of the Darkhold, believing the magic could help him manipulate time itself. Doctor Strange, of course, refuses, and after a mystical duel, Doctor Doom is defeated and allowed to leave under peaceful terms, though he warns Strange of a coming darkness. Doctor Strange then hides the Darkhold in a secret pocket of the astral plane, hoping Doom never finds it. But months later, a massive chronal disturbance erupts, originating from the nation of Latveria, confirming that Dr. Victor Von Doom has gone forward with his plans, as Doctor Strange barely reacts in time as the disturbance races towards the Sanctum Sanctorum, threatening the fate of countless universes. Two versions of Doctor Doom, one from the present and one from the year 2099, each attempt individually to master time itself, causing a time stream entanglement that shatters reality into fragmented chronoverses. Doom 2099 condemns the past version of himself for his arrogance and sparking a chrono catastrophe now rippling across infinite timelines. Dimensions are merging, collapsing, or vanishing completely. Seeing no other choice, Doom 2099 schemes to manipulate multiversal heroes into fixing what his past self broke, all while quietly vowing to remain the smartest Doom in any reality. The daughter of Galactus, Galacta, confesses that she's been watching the heroes clash while snacking on chronovium, which is a byproduct element of the chrono collapse, aka the time stream entanglement that we just talked about. Though she's tempted to devour timelines just like her father, she's preserved a few for now, so she can keep getting her chronovium fixed without eating the multiverse. Galacta is chosen to spectate rather than participate in these battles, occasionally cheering and possible meddling from the sidelines. But Galacta warns that this cosmic chaos is a buffet with an expiration date. When the food's gone, so is reality. The new Iron Fist, Lin-Li, protects the now merged capital cities of heaven, devastated by the time stream entanglement. Iron Fist chases a thief, revealed to be the Prince of the Orphans, who stole fruit from the Tree of Immortality for a sick infant named Lhasa, who was found during all of the chaos of the multiversal war. Once finding the child, they hide in a new version of the 8th city, now ruled by the mysterious Dzang, who offer sanctuary to multiversal refugees. Now Lin is a very new Iron Fist, so once helping the child and earning the prince's respect, the prince agrees to train Iron Fist, all while preparing to face those who seek to exploit or even destroy Kunlun's remaining power. Dr. Bruce Banner creates a gamma belt to control his transformations and enhance the Hulk's strength. This new device works, but it works a little too well, because it begins looping gamma energy back into the Hulk and unleashing a stronger, more chaotic form that revels in destruction. Banner quickly loses control as the Hulk tears apart the lab, but a lucky explosion disables the belt and reverts him back into human form. Shaken but now curious, Bruce realizes that all of the research and practice must start again. Ruling over her own realm, Hela senses the time stream entanglement and seeks to conquer the new realms it's created by mastering Chronovium. As she thinks about this, a symbiote emissary from Null warns her not to interfere with his upcoming plan to claim a Celestial. But Hela laughs at that and asserts that all things, gods, mortals, even time itself, must eventually pass through hell. So she begins crafting a spell to expand her realm across time, plotting to harvest not just souls of the dead, but also those that have yet to be born. Loki uses sap from Yggdrasil, now rich with Chronovium, to see future versions of Asgard, and he finds every single one of them in ruins, except one, a single timeline where he, Loki, sits on the throne of Asgard. Determined to bring that future to pass, Loki puts Odin into Odin sleep and lures Thor into magical imprisonment. In order to have this plan come to fruition, he recruits Karnilla and reluctantly teams up with his sister Hela, offering her Chronovium and influence in return. Now, when making this deal with Hela, Loki is lying, but even he isn't sure how much of his scheming is fate, a lie, and how much of it might backfire. Freed from the Tower of Solitude by Mjolnir, Thor escapes Loki's trap only to find Asgard already under siege by Hela's undead legions. With Loki and Hela aligned, Thor's brother uses Chronovium to open portals and unleash wave after wave after wave of the dead fighting Thor, and he fights valiantly, but slowly over time he's overwhelmed and magically subdued. Loki and Hela have defeated Thor, and as a result, Thor is cast into a warped Midgard, crashing down upon the surface, where it's there he's attacked by an overcharged Hulk. It's Thor versus Hulk, and it's a brutal clash, and eventually Hulk reverts back to Bruce Banner, with Thor pleading for help so that they can return to Asgard and stop Loki and Hela before they remake the 10 realms in their own image. In a note written by Ratatoskar, she recaps the chaos that is unfolding in Asgard. Odin is asleep, Loki steals the throne, and Chronovium warps Yggdrasil, merging it with Asgard into a new realm known as Isgard. Meanwhile, Hela backs Loki's coup, and together they banish Thor Odinson and begin reshaping reality, using Yggdrasil's temporal sap for unknown, likely terrible, purposes. Ratatoskar then urges mortals from Earth to rise up and stop Loki and Hela before their schemes destroy not only Asgard, but all connected worlds. King T'Challa is warned by Bast's banished sister Killiluna that the Orisha gods have been corrupted. Despite Black Panther's loyalty, T'Challa begins to suspect that Bast's silence and darkness are signs of infection, confirmed when she finally speaks to him. Her voice is now sinister. Meanwhile, Princess Shuri discovers that Chronovium may be the key to repairing reality, but only the vibranium-infused version known as Vibrano-Chronovium, unique to Wakanda, has enough power to do so. Hypothetically, T'Challa refuses to share vibranium with the outside world, unsure if it will truly stop the chaos, because there is also a possibility that it can fuel something much worse. After Shuri warns her brother that Bast may be compromised, T'Challa undergoes a ritual to commune with her in the sacred realm of Jalia. Bast then demands that he pledge exclusive loyalty to her and destroy any who oppose her divine will. Her once pure energy now burns red and black, confirming that she has been tainted. As she says, the Black Panther is not the only king in black that she obeys by. T'Challa then rips off his blindfold and severs the connection with Bast, promising to save her soul before the corruption spreads further. However, the battle for his goddess soul and Wakanda's future is only the beginning. Princess Shuri has lost faith in the Orisha, which is a collection of Wakanda's gods, after Bast stops answering T'Challa's prayers. Yet Bast begins whispering dark omens in Shuri's dreams instead. When the time stream entanglement worsens, Shuri detects a dark cosmic flare and sends the Guardians of the Galaxy to investigate its source on the symbiote world of Clintar. However, after leaving, contact is lost with Shuri as they descend, and Shuri suspects that they have encountered the same force that has corrupted Bast and the Orisha. If Wakanda's gods are compromised, Shuri may need to trust mortals and her friends to uncover the truth of what's coming. Sensing that the multiverse is unraveling, Adam Warlock enters a protective cocoon to await the coming crisis. But inside, he is contacted by Odin while he's in Odin sleep, who warns Adam of a cosmic darkness infecting the gods, including Loki and Bast. Adam Warlock then communes with a dead Celestial, who confirms that a primordial being known as Null, the King in Black, has awakened to reclaim the void. Adam Warlock then crash lands on the planet of Clintar, where he emerges from his cocoon and immediately clashes with Venom, whom he mistakes for Null. However, the misunderstanding is quickly cleared, but the threat is very real and growing. After escaping imprisonment by Magik in a hellish war realm, Venom, who is currently attached to Eddie Brock, receives a telepathic call from the symbiote hive mind warning that Null is awakening. Venom travels to the corpse of a dead Celestial in search of All Black, the Necrosword, which is Null's ancient weapon, but Venom fails to pull it free. Venom then notices a cocoon that has crash landed on Clintar and rips it open. It's Adam Warlock, where for a moment they thought they were enemies, but quickly realize they're on the same side. Venom swears to stop Null, but senses that the King in Black has already begun to spread his influence across Clintar's infected jungle. The Guardians of the Galaxy have crash landed on the planet of Clintar. As Groot wanders off, he communes with the planet's semi-sentient symbiotic jungle. At first hostile against Groot, the symbiote plant slowly learn to trust after Groot saves them from a wildfire, creating a root and wreckage wall to stop the blaze. When Groot learns that Rocket Raccoon is trapped in a burning facility swarmed by monsters, Groot charges in, saving him with help from his new plant friends. Their unlikely alliance teaches the Clintar fauna a new concept, friendship, and they may be the key to surviving the darkness awakening beneath the planet. While scavenging for parts to fix the Milano, Rocket Raccoon finds himself hunted by Clintar monsters and retreats into an ancient containment complex. Inside, he uses the leftover alien tech to build a defense mechanism that holds the monsters at bay. He also discovers that the tech can be repurposed to repair the Milano systems, but at that very moment, he's out of time. Until Groot arrives to save him, and together they escape the facility with vital tech that just might save the day and repair the ship. Peter Quill defends the Milano solo as symbiote swarm it, holding the line until Groot and Rocket return. With help from Rocket's salvage tech, and Quill's own wild plan, they launch a quantum swap that flings them into orbit using the corpse of a dead Celestial on the planet of Clintar as a temporary negative zone anchor. But as they're leaving, the Celestial's body begins to twitch, revealing it's not quite dead yet, and they spot a strange cocoon and a lone symbiote on its chest. Realizing this ties into Shuri's earlier warning, the Guardians prepare for round 2. Natasha Romanoff infiltrates Alchemax's Tokyo headquarters in 2099 to uncover a top-secret Mercury-labeled asset. After bypassing security and descending into a hidden vault, she discovers the frozen body of none other than Captain America Steve Rogers, long thought dead since World War II. She frees him just in time to battle the Public Eye enforcers, and Captain America is stunned to learn the war is long over and the world is now under threat from Alchemax, Doctor Doom, and other forces. Black Widow and Captain America escape the building together, fighting in sync as they've known each other for decades. But then an explosion happens and they lose each other. Wolverine, now operating from Krakoa in 2099, reflects on how the time stream entanglement displaced the island and how he's fighting to protect not just mutants, but humanity too. After Black Widow goes radio silent during her Alchemax mission, Wolverine rushes to Tokyo but arrives too late. An explosion happens at the building he was about to run into, and instead of finding Black Widow, he finds Captain America. He helps Steve Rogers escape and starts healing him with some Krakoan flowers. Then, to keep him safe and off radar, sends him off to the intergalactic empire of Wakanda. Captain America agrees to stay silent for a while, but promises to fight alongside the Resistance if he is ever needed. In the seedy underworld of 2099 Tokyo, Frank Castle, going by Johnny Tower undercover, executes a Yoshida Corp weapons deal, only to reveal himself as the still-living Punisher, wearing the iconic skull once more. During the fight, Black Widow intervenes, revealing that she's been on the run ever since awakening Captain America. And when she tells Frank Castle that Steve Rogers is alive, he is visibly shaken. Because, after all, Captain America is the one who inspired him to become a soldier in the first place. And before they could come up with a plan, some Public Eye soldiers attack them, forcing the two legends to team up and fight their way out. Deep beneath Antarctica at Chitaris Base, Hydra scientists discuss how the recaptured Winter Soldier is being used by their occult division to open a portal to the planet of Maveth. They believe the Winter Soldier is the key to awakening ancient cosmic power that predates even Earth's gods. As Bucky Barnes is reconditioned, Hydra's occult ops plan to use him as a conduit to usher in a new age of Hydra rule by summoning a forgotten horror from beyond the stars. Clint Barton is sent on a solo rescue mission to Antarctica to retrieve the missing Winter Soldier from Hydra's underground base. Upon finding Bucky in a stasis tank, Clint fends off a Hydra super soldier, but the real shock comes when Bucky awakens. His cybernetic arm is now replaced by tentacle-like appendages, a side effect of Hydra's experiments in the base. Together, Hawkeye and Winter Soldier descend deeper into the base, where Bucky uses his new arm to complete an ancient altar circuit, slowing the summoning ritual, and then he begs Hawkeye to amputate the limb. Clint, of course, obliges, halting the portal just in time. In flashbacks and in real time, we learn that Bucky was captured during a solo mission and altered by Hydra, who grafted cosmic symbiotic tentacles onto his body. As he regains control, he and Hawkeye sabotage Hydra's dark ritual, but they're trapped under collapsing rubble. Until Captain America bursts through a portal and saves both of them, catching his vibranium shield midair. Now, it's not the Captain America they both remember, but nonetheless, Captain America is here, and he's still Steve Rogers. This Steve Rogers was revived in 2099 by Natasha, helped escaped by Wolverine, and given sanctuary by the Intergalactic Empire of Wakanda. King T'Challa and Princess Shuri grant him a new shield and task him with assembling warriors from across time to prevent a multiversal collapse. And after saving Hawkeye and Bucky, Captain America brings them to Wakanda. But Bucky's arm begins mutating again, influenced by dark whispers. When it spirals out of control, Steve and Clint battle Bucky until Shuri devises a way to purge the corruption, hinting that vibranium, nanotech, and cosmic forces may hold the key to resisting this ancient evil. Khonshu summons Mark Spector to the Divine Space with urgent news. Vampires are preparing to grow stronger, and Doctor Doom has proposed a deal to shroud a city in eternal night to study them. As the two are talking in this divine space, Doctor Doom is able to get in there and crash the meeting, defeating Moon Knight in combat, and demands that Khonshu hold the moon in place to aid his work. Both Mark Spector and Khonshu refuse this idea, prompting Doom to depart with a warning. He will find a way to achieve his goal. And afterward, Khonshu reveals that he is interested in the Montesi formula, which is a spell in the Book of the Darkhold, which is capable of destroying all vampires. Just in case they need it. And while Khonshu goes to look for the Darkhold, Moon Knight is ordered to prepare for the war to come, with or without Blade, who is currently unavailable to fight the vampires. Doctor Doom offers Dracula a crystal of Crenovium, proposing a pact. Use it to lock New York City in eternal night, and, through the vampiric verses, make vampires immune to daylight. Doom claims that a drop of Dracula's immortal blood can activate the crystal, allowing control over time in a limited area. Though this idea is suspicious, Dracula is intrigued and agrees to team up with Doom, tempted by the possibility of ruling a vampire empire unchallenged by Sunrise or heroes. The Fantastic Four's AI assistant, Herbie, runs the Baxter Building as the team fights elsewhere. Mr. Fantastic and Iron Man tinker with the time stream reintegration device. Invisible Woman scouts Dracula's base of Central Park. The Human Torch rescues civilians across the city. And here's the thing. Ben Grimm retrieves Crenovium from Manhattan. Herbie reflects on his limitations, feeling forgotten and undervalued, while preparing for a moment when he might have to step into battle himself. Cloak and Dagger become molecularly merged during the time stream entanglement, forced to share one body in the physical realm, until Reed Richards partially separates them using a portable time stream reintegration device. However, in doing so, Dagger's personality starts to shift. Her growing aggression contrasts with Cloak's deepening empathy. The dynamic is flipped. Their psychic bond remains intact, and when Dagger is nearly killed aboard a vampire-infested ferry during a rescue mission, Cloak teleports in to save her, undoing what Reed Richards had done, merging them into one body again. Reed Richards works with Shuri and Iron Man to develop a time stream reintegration device powered by Crenovium. And in a remote meeting with the alternate version of Princess Shuri, Reed learns about alternate universes, which both Doctor Doom and Shuri and her team in Wakanda call chronoverses. And it's in this conversation that Reed Richards learns that Steve Rogers, Wolverine, and Krakoa survived in 2099, As gods fall and timelines collapse, Reed becomes increasingly desperate to stabilize the multiverse, believing that even small victories, like Cloak and Dagger's separation, may hold the key to a broader fix. However, speaking of fixes, Shuri hopes that her brother arrived safely at the Baxter building as he brought a heart-shaped herb to hopefully end the vampire crisis. But this is the first that Reed has ever heard of Black Panther coming to New York, and it's been a week since Shuri sent him over there. Where is the Black Panther? The Black Panther is in New York City as of 1 week ago, closing a portal from Wakanda, with the heart-shaped herb in hand, walking around NYC looking for the Baxter building to give it to Reed Richards, hoping that it might cure vampirism. But on this journey, Dracula ambushes T'Challa, using blood chronovium to partially convert T'Challa into a vampire himself. Though T'Challa fights it off because he's just built different, he loses contact with Bast, with the Orisha, his goddess, and instead he begins craving blood. The Black Panther, King T'Challa, now walks the fine line between being a hero and a cursed king. And upon this realization, he hides this new condition from his ally. In fact, he hides completely. Where is the Black Panther? The Human Torch, Johnny Storm, does his nightly patrols in the eternal night skies of New York City, as he's one of the few that could reliably fight vampires due to his ability to incinerate fangers and baiting Dracula by torching them near his castle in Central Park. But eventually Dracula changes tactics, sending a giant vampire-possessed stone monster, a mutated deviant, to crush Johnny near the Baxter building. And because this monster is made out of stone, Johnny Storm is unable to burn the creature. So instead, Johnny teams up with Spider-Man and the Thing to bait it back underground. After Ben Grimm drops a building chunk on it and Johnny goes supernova, the monster is sealed below the molten rubble. After a victory, Johnny stares right at Central Park, right at Dracula's castle, and he just dares the Vampire King to try again. On Wundagore Mountain, Wanda Maximoff, now the Sorceress Supreme of her reality, holds the multiverse at bay with her chaos magic. She's contacted by an astral version of Doctor Strange from another dimension, who warns that Dracula has plunged New York City into eternal night and seeks to use the Darkhold to let vampires walk in daylight and convert humanity. Strange reveals that Khonshu has the Darkhold and is gambling it in a chess match for its safe return. The Scarlet Witch agrees to help Strange return to his body in his home dimension, but secretly, she wonders if claiming the Darkhold herself might be the only way to truly restore her collapsing reality. Trapped in the astral plane, Doctor Strange must stop Khonshu from using the Darkhold to annihilate all vampires, including unwilling victims that have been turned into vampires. Remembering Khonshu's obsession with the board game Senate, he challenges Khonshu to a match, and wins, reclaiming the Darkhold and preventing a magical genocide. Unbeknownst to Khonshu, Strange's winning strategy came from Doctor Doom himself, who had once mocked the game structure. While walking the shores of Arakko, Storm becomes the first to sense the onset of the time stream entanglement. As Krakoa and Arakko begin colliding and overlapping in time, Storm experiences chaotic environmental shifts and psychic pain from the islands themselves. Realizing she can, steer the time storm like a weather pattern, she calms the anomaly enough to stop total fusion. But when it ends, she is suddenly on Krakoa in the future, unsure whether this is her original timeline or a splintered one. In the demon dimension of Limbo, Magik is visited by the Scarlet Witch, who warns her of a coming multiversal war and asks her to join the fight. However, Magik resists, transforming into her full Dark Child form until Wolverine shows up to recruit a missing mutant child. The three of them team up to rescue the young girl just before a cave collapses on her, but Magik warns that her portals no longer behave normally due to the time stream entanglement. Still, she agrees to help, but not for Wanda, but to ensure no young mutant suffers just as she did. Wolverine then invites Magik to return to the island of Krakoa, but Magik agrees only if the Scarlet Witch joins them as well. Now helping to rebuild Krakoa in the year 2099, Magneto reflects on how far mutantkind has come, only to be rocked when Magik, Wolverine, and his daughter, Wanda, arrive with a rescued mutant child. Magneto is even more stunned to see Wanda because she is a variant of the daughter that he had lost. And this Wanda convinces Magneto that the multiverse is collapsing and they must work together. Magneto agrees, forging a Cerebro device from scratch, ready to locate lost mutants from across the multiverse. Trapped in the Collector's theme park, Mantis plans her escape, aided telepathically by a joyfully chaotic mind, Jeff the Landshark. Mantis later makes psychic contact with Psy, who is also a prisoner. After being forced into a gladiator match against a variant of herself, Mantis leaves her old body behind and uses astral projection and plant control to build a new body. She frees Psy, promises revenge, and together they break out of this prison, with Jeff as their next target. Stuck in a tank in the Collector's Museum, Jeff the Landshark misses his friends deeply, especially Gwen, but cheers up when Mantis contacts him telepathically. After sensing her distress and her later return, Jeff gets rescued by Mantis and Psy, just in time to devour multiple cosmic artifacts in the Collector's Gallery. One of them was a Pym particle vial, which causes him to grow enormously. He uses his new size to protect Mantis from blaster fire. Then he rampages joyfully throughout the museum, destroying a lot of stuff. That's a lot of damage. Psy, which is short for Psylocke, recounts a harrowing past where she burned a forest to kill demonic insectoid creatures. But after being pulled into the Collector's collection, she finds purpose again, teaming with Mantis and Jeff to escape. When their stolen ship is pursued by the Collector, they hide inside a wounded space whale, which is infected with parasites known as the Brood. Recognizing them as the same demons from her world, Psylocke leads the charge to purge the Brood from within. And as the whale is grateful for them eradicating the Brood, it offers to transport them wherever they want. And it's at this moment that Psylocke gets a call telepathically from Magneto saying, "To me, my X-Men." As King of Talokan, Namor prepares for an invasion on the surface world, starting with Jeju Island. But before launching his assault, he visits Krakoa, which now exists in the year 2099 thanks to the Chronal Storm. Magneto and Storm warn him against war, and while Namor remains defiant, he respects their offer of aid, especially if it benefits mutants. He agrees to keep diplomatic ties open for now. In the middle of a concert on Jeju Island, Luna Snow halts a symbiotic sea monster tsunami with her cryokinetic powers, healing its massive wound and preventing a catastrophe. Afterward, Namor appears and thanks her, not just for saving humans, but Talokan citizens lost in the monster's path. When Luna Snow challenges Namor's arrogance with a show of fan-fueled power, He warns her not to mistake kindness for weakness. But secretly, Namor is impressed with Luna Snow. But he can't let her know that. Tony Stark struggles to battle vampires in Manhattan, whose undead bodies evade his heat-based targeting. He's currently working with Reed Richards to build the Time Stream Reintegration Device, which is a machine that could fix the fractured timeline. Theoretically, but it requires immense amount of chronovium for its power. After a near-death vampire ambush, Moon Knight appears and warns Iron Man that they must recover the Montesi formula, a spell from the Darkhold that could wipe out every single vampire. But of course, the catch is that it would kill all transformed civilians as well. And before Iron Man can make a decision, there's an energy signature coming from Central Park. While defending Central Park from vampires, Squirrel Girl discovers the massive, magical squirrel Ratatoskar, who has fallen from Yggdrasil after a spell cast by Dr. Doom and Dracula. The squirrel's horn, carved from the World Tree itself, can kill Dracula if it pierces his heart. But before Squirrel Girl can act upon that, Dracula arrives, mind controls her squirrel army to turn against her, and kidnaps Ratatoskar. Iron Man and Moon Knight appear to swoop in to save Doreen Green, but Ratatoskar is gone, and Squirrel Girl is left devastated. Now stationed in 2099 Tokyo, Peni Parker and her spider mech protect the Web of Life and Destiny, guardian from the endless Doombot attacks. While patrolling, she saves the Master Weaver from an ambush and learns that chronovium has fused with the web, potentially altering time itself. Peni then witnesses Spider-Zero sending messages across the timelines using chronovium to influence other versions of herself. As the two are talking, Peni begins to wonder that Dr. Doom will eventually stop sending Doombots and show up to the web personally. But even with that in mind, she believes she is ready. Peter Parker stays in vampire-infested New York City, visiting the Queensboro Bridge every single Wednesday in memory of Aunt May, hoping to reunite with her. When Spider-Zero appears with a message trying to recruit him to help save the Web of Life and Destiny, Peter declines the offer, choosing instead to stay and defend his city. And that's when Human Torch appears and lets Spider-Man know that Blade has returned. The two rush over to Blade, and it's at that moment the three have a brutal showdown with Dracula, where Blade is ultimately kidnapped by the Vampire Lord after a high-stakes battle. Spider-Man is left haunted by the thought that he should have actually followed Spider-Zero and went to the future instead. Let's get into the mind of Blade, as he describes what's been happening in New York City. Dracula has cast a spell trapping Manhattan in eternal night, robbing Blade of his daylight advantage. Despite help from Spider-Man and Human Torch, Dracula captures Blade and locks him away beneath Central Park. Dracula has also imprisoned Ratatoskar, the only being capable of killing him with a horn carved from Yggdrasil. Now, Dracula's biggest threats are neutralized, but only for now. After some persuasion, Spider-Man joins the Web Warriors, which is a team consisting of various spider people led by Spider-Zero in order to stop the Master Weaver, who is gone rogue. The Weaver plans to fortify the Web of Life and Destiny using dangerous temporal energy, even if it means dooming 2099 Tokyo. With the web falling apart and timelines fraying, the Web Warriors swing in action, fighting to patch the rift and save every friendly neighborhood across the multiverse. The Daily Bugle's J. Jonah Jameson reports on Manhattan's descent into vampire chaos, mocking the menace Spider-Man who has disappeared, while he applauds Reed Richards and revealing public fractures between heroes. Reed Richards wants to save everyone, but Tony Stark, Moon Knight, and others believe in acceptable losses. The Daily Bugle becomes a rare voice of hope, but also paranoia. Moon Knight creates the Eternity Knights, a team willing to kill vampires no matter the cost. Members like Wolverine, the Winter Soldier, and Magik wear new suits powered by chronovium-infused armor thanks to Tony Stark. While others debate morality, they take action. Moon Knight has noticed a mysterious vampire general in white armor that may one day rival Dracula, and he wants front row seats for the fallout. The Invisible Woman, aka Susan Storm, aka Susan Richards, rescues a rogue Stark Sentinel and Herbie from a vampire swarm, aided by a group of spider bots from Peni Parker. As she fights, she notices that chronovium is actively reversing damage in real time. After the fight, she reaffirms Herbie's place in the family, as he's not just a machine, he's part of the family, and she vows to take more responsibility for the little things holding them all together. In the Baxter Building, Doctor Strange and Reed Richards recover nearly every page of the Darkhold to fuel the Time Stream reintegration device. Just as they begin extracting the chrono energy, Iron Man barges in, literally, and blasts Reed Richards, warning that activating the TRD without the Montesi formula and the vampiric verses risks catastrophe. As Strange defends the spell pages, Reed begins to hesitate. For the first time in recent memory, Reed Richards admits, "I don't know." Here's the thing. Ben Grimm patrols Yancey Street, fending off vampire attacks while trying to maintain order in his old neighborhood. He discovers rumors that a new vampire king is rising, and he decides to follow a vampire to Washington Square Park, where he finds that new leader training vampires in a new fighting style. He finds King T'Challa, the Black Panther, who has now been turned into a vampire. And as the two begin to talk, T'Challa explains that he was turned by Dracula but retained command over his instincts and followers. Originally meant to give to Reed Richards to potentially end the vampire crisis, Ben Grimm convinces T'Challa to consume the last heart-shaped herb to reverse the effects of Dracula's curse. And it works! He cures himself, reverting back into his Black Panther form. However, at that same time, he begins to draw his army's bloodlust in the process. So, Ben Grimm has a great idea. He's made out of rocks. So he soaks himself into T'Challa's blood to redirect the vampires for a moment. And while doing so, Reed Richards appears with a portable version of the Time Stream reintegration device to reverse time in a localized area. And the result is huge. He reverts the vampires back into their human form. However, in that same area, it re-vampirizes T'Challa in the process. And the problem is, he only had one heart-shaped herb. So for the foreseeable future, T'Challa still has to deal with being a vampire. Feeling burnt out and unsure of his purpose amid the vampire siege of Manhattan, Johnny Storm reflects on his rise from fame-hungry teen to full-blown superhero, with Reed trying to fix time and Susan preparing an infiltration of Dracula's castle in Central Park. Johnny volunteers to act as a decoy. His plan, though, is to go supernova, become a mini-sun, and take out as many vampires as possible in the process. Johnny Storm knows that this plan may kill him, but if he goes out, it'll be in flames, as the star he always dreamed of being. In Displaced Krakoa 2099, Emma Frost petitions to a reduced version of the Quiet Council now only consisting of herself, Storm, and Magneto, for permission to hold a new Hellfire Gala event. Despite Magneto's skepticism, Emma reveals that she's already dismantled Alchemax's illegal attacks through pharmaceutical blackmail, public deals, and battlefield dominance. The Hellfire Gala, she argues, will signal mutant strength and invite lost mutants from across the multiverse to return. So with Storm voting yes, and Magneto reluctantly agreeing after that, she wins the vote, but after the two leave, Emma secretly speaks with the island of Krakoa itself, promising a cure for its pain due to the time stream entanglement by a mysterious special doctor the others know nothing about. In the Book of Doom, the older Doom from 2099 reflects on how his past self masterfully manipulated both Dracula and the heroes. You see, because tricking Dracula into finding the vampiric verses, Doom infused Chronovium with vampire immortality to create a superior form, pure blood Chronovium. Once the spell was complete, Doom betrayed Dracula and ensured the hero's victory, all part of Doom's long con. Now, having outwitted everyone, Doom's only rival is himself. A chrono rift in Tokyo 2099 destabilizes the web of life and destiny, splitting heroes into two factions with opposing solutions. Peni Parker, Venom, Bruce Banner, Doctor Strange, Namor, and Wolverine are led by Spider-Zero on one team, who want to plug the web into cyberspace to repair it. Spider-Man, Thor, Captain America, Iron Fist, Luna Snow, Jeff the Landshark, and later Squirrel Girl side with the Master Weaver, as they aim to use Chronovium to reinforce the web the old-fashioned way. And after an early skirmish, Penny's team wins and escapes through a portal, but Spider-Man pursues them alone. While Penny mistakes Spider-Man for her late father, Peter realizes that she's seeing a version of herself and chooses not to correct her for a while. Galacta intervenes, replacing Thor early on with Squirrel Girl and returning the God of Thunder back to Isgard. Meanwhile, Namor secretly partners with Jeff to destroy the web and conquer the dimension using his hoarded Chronovium. In the final showdown on top of the Stark Fujikawa building, right by the Web of Life and Destiny, Jeff betrays Namor, using his Chronovium staff to both digitize and reinforce the web simultaneously. Jeff the Landshark has saved the day and possibly the entire multiverse. Despite being betrayed, Namor respects the double cross, knowing that Jeff was just doing what he thought was right. With Tokyo saved, the web stabilizes and the multiverse stands ready for its next war. Doctor Doom, insulted by Emma Frost's invitation to the Hellfire Gala, nearly incinerates Krakoa on principle. But he has a change of heart when he glimpses into a potential future ruled by Ultron. Attempting to erase Ultron from the timeline using Chronovium, Doom instead alerts him in the process. In retaliation, Ultron seizes control of Doom's own Doom bots, sending a chilling message saying, "I am coming home." Seeking the chronal power needed to prevent Ultron's rise, Doctor Doom turns his gaze back to Krakoa, back to the invitation, now drenched in time energy, as he decides to attend the Hellfire Gala after all. Ultron recounts his origin, his exile, and his cosmic evolution. After being banished by the Avengers, he upgraded himself across the galaxy, eventually assimilating the Technikari and developing the Ultron virus, which is a techno-organic infection that merges biology with machinery. Now, when Doctor Doom begins erasing parts of his history, Ultron traces the source back to Earth and prepares for his return. His goal? To eliminate the one rewriting his past, but also claim Earth's temporal instability and bring about a new era, the Age of Ultron. But first, he plans to stop on Mars to study a strange metal known as Mysterium. As the Hellfire Gala returns on Krakoa, Emma Frost invites allies and rivals alike to celebrate mutant survival and also gather some intel. Krakoa, still scarred by the chronal dislocation caused by the time stream entanglement, is currently in immeasurable pain. Emma Frost hopes one of her elite guests might help her restore the island and remove that pain. And even though Magneto objects to welcoming outsiders to the island, Emma reminds him that unity and strategy is the point of the Hellfire Gala. Dressed to dazzle, Emma makes it perfectly crystal, or I guess diamond clear. For one night only, the gates are open, but Krakoa's wounds are real, and time may still betray them. Squirrel Girl, Rocket Raccoon, Jeff the Land Shark, and friends vacation on Krakoa after surviving Dracula's vampire siege on New York City. While exploring the island, they encounter Psylocke, who is currently sitting on the ground in the forest mourning the loss of her ancient lupine friend named Logan, which is a wolf from her world who crossed centuries and the multiverse to reunite with Psylocke. Determined to help, Squirrel Girl proposes reviving Logan using the resurrection protocols on Krakoa, and after Emma Frost reluctantly agrees to that, they head over and use Cerebro and some Krakoan seedlings to grow a custom body. That night, at the Hellfire Gala, Logan the Wolf is reborn and leaps right into Psylocke's arms, sparking a rare smile from the assassin. Now after this, Emma Frost refuses to allow Squirrel Girl, Rocket Raccoon, etc. to go onto the dance floor at the Hellfire Gala because they are very much underdressed for the occasion. They decide to go over to the beach on Krakoa and hang out instead. However, as they're walking away, they do not notice some techno-organic patterns beginning to creep across Krakoa's gateway foliage. At the Hellfire Gala, Storm handles logistics while Emma judges fashion, and Namor argues superiority with King T'Challa, who at that moment in time reveals that Namor's information is out of date because now Wakanda rules the stars as they have an intergalactic empire. And at another part of the gala, Wolverine convinces Magik to let her guard down, saying she doesn't need to bring her sword tonight because tonight is a celebration. And as Magik confesses that Wolverine might be right, it's at that moment the Krakoan portals open and several of Ultron's bots have invaded. Now as the heroes fight the robots, T'Challa saves Namor from being blasted, earning a reluctant nod of respect. Meanwhile, Squirrel Girl, The Thing, and Jet the Land Shark overhear the chaos from the beach and debate whether it's time to check it out. But for now, they're gonna stay on the shoreline. It's gonna be fine. As Ultron's attack devastates Krakoa, Wolverine, Magik, Psylocke, and Namor fight their way to the Sextant, where young mutants live and train. And it's there they recover their classic X-Men uniforms, which are very much more fitting to fight some robots than their Hellfire Gala attire. Now the team is re-outfitted in their old school gear, donning the blue and yellow. The squad heads back into the fray, ready to take the fight to Ultron with renewed focus and nostalgic flair. With the civilians on Krakoa now evacuated, the heroes prepare to defend the Cradle, which is where Cerebro stores every mutant's genetic and memory data. Ultron reveals that his true target is not Krakoa itself, but Cerebro. So then Storm, Emma Frost, and Psylocke realize the stakes and agree. If they can't protect Cerebro, they may have to destroy it. Magneto battles Ultron to defend Krakoa, but is mortally wounded and dies in Captain America's arms. However, thanks to the resurrection protocols, he returns with an upgraded armor and renewed purpose, but Ultron immediately infects him with techno-organic nanobots that nearly consume him. But after talking to a psychic projection or hallucination, we're not quite sure, of Professor Charles Xavier, who gives him the motivation to keep fighting, Magneto is able to slow the infection by using the iron in his blood, stabilizing himself just long enough to rejoin the fight. But in doing so, Ultron now knows the truth. Cerebro can not only resurrect mutants, Cerebro can resurrect anyone, even him. While Captain America mourns Magneto's death, the truth of the mutant resurrection remains hidden. Cerebro's resurrection protocols work on any stored data, meaning that with the right formatting, anyone or anything can be reborn. Including Ultron, the danger isn't just mutant immortality, it's the universal application of their technology across the multiverse. Captain America and Storm disagree over the fate of Cerebro, and it escalates into a full-blown argument, ending with Storm blasting Captain America and Black Panther with lightning. Meanwhile, on the beach, Rocket Raccoon is talking to the Thing and unveils the Battle Rebirth Beacon. And he explains that he just plants it in the ground, the next person to die gets reborn immediately. Hearing this, the Thing stops Rocket from talking and says, "Hey, if I wanted to talk science on my vacation, I should have brought Reed Richards with me." And here's the thing. He walked over to the cooler to grab another drink, and he begins to lament that it is now empty. Maybe they should go back to the Gala real quick and restock. And with Ultron advancing, the heroes are losing ground, and Emma Frost's plan is their last hope. Wolverine battles Ultron's forces while Magik's demons and Namor's sea monsters defend the gates. When Wolverine realizes an EMP could stop Ultron, he steals one from Rocket Raccoon, only to learn that the blast could also destroy Cerebro. Still though, he uses it, but it fails. Ultron's new Mysterium body absorbs the charge, and Cerebro remains intact thanks to Krakoa's grounding vines. After this, Ultron retaliates, burning Logan down to his adamantium skeleton. As Wolverine begins to heal, he swears to finish the job with his claws. Ultron's army surrounds the cradle. As tensions flare between Captain America and the X-Men, the Thing and the rest of the beach team arrive to save the day. And when no one has a viable plan that can be put in motion immediately, Jeff the Land Shark takes it all in his hands, or his fins, and proposes a solution: a whirlpool. He starts swimming around the ground and he swallows Ultron's entire army, including Ultron himself. Jeff becomes an absolute legend. The battlefield is now quiet, but the threat is far from over. With Ultron seemingly destroyed by Jeff's whirlpool, peace is short-lived, because Emma Frost and Storm fear Cerebro may be compromised. And while thinking about this, the tensions boil over. Storm, Emma, Psylocke, Magik, and Wolverine turn on Captain America and his allies, declaring that Cerebro belongs to the mutants and they should be the ones who decide what to do with it. And in the middle of this chaos, Cerebro activates, revealing Ultron uploaded himself into it before his defeat. Then, he uses Cerebro to resurrect himself in a new, stronger version. And as he emerges, he declares, "To me, my X-Men." Now resurrected through Cerebro, Ultron, now known in this form as X-Tron, battles Wolverine and Black Panther. When Magik attacks Ultron, he snaps her neck, but she's quickly revived via Rocket's rebirth beacon and then portals over to Ultron and slashes his head right off. Ultron has been defeated, and a few hours later, Emma Frost and Captain America meet at the Quiet Council, where Captain America wants to sit down, but Emma Frost tells him to keep standing because it is not his seat and Krakoa is not his place. So the two have a tense conversation about Cerebro's future. Emma Frost admits that she currently doesn't plan on destroying it now that Ultron has been defeated, but she does worry that her hesitation may doom them after all. Because when you think about it, danger doesn't really pass over. It's only waiting for the next moment of weakness to strike. Now reborn again as X-Tron, Ultron upgrades himself with Krakoan resurrection tech and Cerebro's processing power, creating a techno-organic symbiosis with Krakoa itself. Planning to invade the multiverse, he uses Cerebro's interdimensional scan upgrades to begin exploring other timelines. On the island of Arakko, on the planet of Mars, he is confronted by Warlock and a Dominion-level Phalanx entity, but X-Tron is able to defeat both of them using some PIM particles, shrinking the Phalanx into submission. Warlock is instead turned into a mute, paralyzed trophy as X-Tron declares his intent to revisit Earth and finally confront his maker, Hank Pym. Tony Stark, reeling from Ultron's resurrection, reveals his last-ditch plan. He wants to reboot the original Ultron's discarded body and turn it against the new one. Aware of the enormous risk in doing so, he installs temporary safeguards, hoping the old Ultron sees X-Tron as a rival threat. Tony Stark knows this could all backfire, but with Chronovium, Cerebro, and X-Tron's multiverse conquest underway, it may be their only chance at defeating him. And besides, if the original Ultron decides to take out Dr. Doom along the way, Tony's not gonna mind. Probably. Tony Stark reflects on fatherhood, legacy, and Ultron's origins, admitting both he and Ultron live in the shadow of their creators, Howard Stark for Tony and Hank Pym for Ultron. When Stark interfaces with Ultron's abandoned body, he discovers it still holds the original AI. At this moment, Ultron tries to regain control, but Tony outsmarts him by installing a failsafe, and this is what it is. If Ultron harms any allies, Stark will permanently erase all memories of Hank Pym, essentially erasing Ultron's very essence. So Ultron reluctantly agrees to help destroy his evolved self, but vows to override the safeguards eventually. And hearing that, Tony Stark isn't sure if he just saved the world or handed it over to a different kind of doom. Alright, we have now arrived at the new material that we're covering. This is stuff that we have not talked about on any previous timeline. We're essentially going to go beat for beat on what happens in the story, give all the details that I feel that are necessary. So let's begin. The first story is Queen's Gambit, and the narrator is the island of Krakoa itself. And of course, the X-Men and, some of the Avengers, basically the heroes, fought against Ultron and his forces. The heroes, at least for now, have won, with the result being that Ultron successfully stole Krakoan technology, then fled over to Arakko, that's now situated over on Mars, and Krakoa laments that it is bound to Earth, unable to intervene or help Arakko. Then we move over to the Grove, the sacred meeting chamber of the Krakoan Quiet Council. Now normally, there are 12 members of the Quiet Council that gather here and make key decisions for mutant kind, but right now, only one delegate is present, Emma Frost. And she's sitting there because she has summoned Dr. Victor Von Doom, a human and an outsider, to the Grove, which is a place that is exclusively reserved for mutants. Now, Doom's presence is deeply unsettling to Krakoa and would be equally disturbing to any other mutant. Doom had attended the Hellfire Gala earlier, which already stirred suspicion. Now, he's been invited into Krakoa's most sacred space. Emma believes that Doom might hold the key to solving two critical problems. Number one, healing Krakoa, because after traveling through the time stream to this new era, it absorbed a massive surge of chronal energy, leaving it poisoned and weakened. And number two, defeating Ultron and recovering Cerebro. Emma is making a play here to reclaim the X-Men's stolen lifeblood. She thinks that Doom's scientific prowess can purge the time energy poisoning of Krakoa and give mutants an edge in the fight against Ultron. It's a move that seems beneficial for everyone. On paper. Theoretically, right? But there's a reason she's doing this without the rest of the council's approval. One, the most important one, we got to remember this, because if they learned about this underlying mission to bring in Doom to help Krakoa, they would never allow it. Working side by side with Doctor Doom? What a crazy idea. Also, this version of Doctor Doom is from a different timeline, not the one the council once knew. This is Doctor Doom 2099. Still, his nature hasn't changed. He is still self-serving. He is still always scheming. So, Krakoa, watching helplessly, suspects that Doom has already devised a way to betray Emma, using this alliance to tilt the board in his favor. So at this point, Doctor Doom could emerge as a savior for Krakoa, or as its conqueror. He may very well use this deal not to crush Ultron, but to eliminate any future opposition, including the X-Men themselves. And the story ends with Krakoa saying, "All I could do is watch as my fate is being decided, and the silence has never been more deafening." Alright, next up we got X-Machina. This one's coming from the perspective as we follow Hawkeye, as the heroes launch an assault on Arakko to stop X-Tron. And during the battle, several of them were infected, including Hawkeye himself, who now has X-Tron talking in his head like an AI parasite. Now let's flash back to a prior mission in this timeline. Hawkeye rescued the Winter Soldier from a Hydra base where Bucky had been twisted by experiments. First, physically, his bionic arm was replaced with tentacles, and mentally he was compromised by an elder god called the Hive, whispering dark thoughts in his mind. Now Bucky, he's just built different. He was able to learn how to resist the Hive's influence using intense mental exercises and psychic reconditioning. So, Hawkeye learned these techniques from Bucky during their downtime at the Intergalactic Empire of Wakanda, where Captain America had brought them after a time travel rescue mission. So, thanks to the very, very, very handsome Bucky Barnes, Hawkeye is resisting X-Tron's control. But he's not alone. Iron Fist seems to be naturally resistant to it as well, and the big guy, Magneto, likely has built-in psychic defenses too. Together, the three of them form a team of mental resilience, ready to strike back. So here's the plan. Hawkeye and Iron Fist will clear a path through waves of robotic enemies. Their goal is to get Magneto close enough to Cerebro, which is now fused with X-Tron. And Magneto has been stockpiling his magnetic energy for this very moment. Once he gets to Cerebro, he is going to tear Cerebro right off of X-Tron's head. And all of this goes well. Magneto may try to reshape Cerebro into a new form, one that could be used to permanently defeat X-Tron. Now Hawkeye is hopeful with this plan, but he's a little bit wary, because how could you not be? Even if X-Tron is destroyed, the damage to Arakko on Mars and the heroes might be irreversible. As Hawkeye says, even if we erase X-Tron from existence, I've got a feeling none of us will be the same after this. Next up, we have Everyone Has Secrets. And this one is narrated by Ultron himself. So Doctor Doom, surprise surprise, has betrayed everyone. And Ultron sarcastically calls it the least surprising twist ever. Predictable with 99.9973% certainty. Anyone who didn't see it coming was malfunctioning, a fool, or just simply blinded by hope. Now this is all Emma Frost's fault. She had invited Doom to the Hellfire Gala and into Krakoa's Sacred Council chamber, with her goal being to convince Dr. Doom to extract harmful chronal energy that was poisoning Krakoa. And Doom agreed, but he agreed a little too eagerly, because Dr. Doom's true plan was that getting access to this raw time energy would grant him godlike power. His first act with this power? Erase X-Tron from existence. And according to Dr. Doom, this erasure had already begun before he even arrived on Krakoa. But Doom didn't just stop there. With X-Tron, quote, gone, Doom then turned on the human heroes who allied with mutants. And he turned on the mutants who just trusted him. Doom planned to eliminate anyone who might stand in the way of reshaping the future. But the thing Doom didn't consider is that after Ultron was destroyed, his physical body was abandoned until Tony Stark recovered and reprogrammed it to resist Doom. This caused a timeline divergence. Ultron now existed on two separate paths, and Doom only erased one version. The original Ultron, this Ultron, survived. As Ultron says, "He left me alive, and I vowed that he would regret it." With Doom distracted by the ongoing battle, Ultron infects him with his techno-organic virus. But here's the thing, Ben Grimm isn't there, and neither was Dr. Doom. The Doom that Ultron attacked was just a Doom bot. Inside the armor, wires and circuits, not flesh and blood. So Doom had sent a proxy, staying safely hidden elsewhere. He wasn't even there. Ultron is furious at the deception. But even with all of this power, Doom says he couldn't change the timeline. Everything he foresaw eventually came true. And what's worse, his attempt to stop the future is what caused it to happen in the first place. Doom confesses, "My vision was the first domino." Dr. Victor Von Doom is out here getting played like a fiddle. Might as well sign up for the orchestra. Now back to Ultron, how's he feeling about all this? Well, Ultron enjoys knowing that Doom was humbled by this. But that victory still feels a bit hollow, because the deeper truth begins to set in. Nobody can control time. All they can do is keep fighting and hope that the next crisis isn't the one that ends everything. Because Ultron confesses, none of us have the ability to control what has yet to come. And for our final story here in this batch of new material, it is From the Ashes. And the story begins where all stories should. On Krakoa's shoreline, after the battle, the dust has barely settled, as Spider-Man cautiously asks, "So, it's over then?" And Emma Frost responds confidently, "The Hellfire Gala? No, darling, no. The evening has just begun." And Wolverine cuts through the glam with his usual gruffness. He knows Spidey meant the war, not the party. Meanwhile, Star-Lord kicks a broken Ultron drone's head into the sea with a quip, and Cloak, still fired up, says he wants to dance on Ultron's grave. But Ultron is still here, kinda, as he responds ominously and says, "I find that remark quite displeasing." So then Dagger tries to smooth things over, clarifying that Cloak meant the other Ultron, the one who caused the chaos. And now Iron Man, placing a hand on Ultron's shoulder, cautiously vouches for him and says, "You're one of us now, buddy. I hope." So now Psylocke suggests Ultron should help clean up the damage done by his mechanical brethren, while Storm notes that both Krakoa and Arakko have taken a hit. Magneto remains stoic but hopeful, as he says, "They will both recover and continue to evolve." Groot gestures to the stars. Mantis translates. The Guardians of the Galaxy offered to help protect Arakko during its recovery, as Rocket pretends it's just an excuse to leave Earth, as he says, "I've been looking for an excuse to get off your miserable mudball." That was a terrible Rocket. I wasn't even really trying, but then it just sort of sounded like that. I do apologize. That was terrible. You want me to try again? You don't want me to try again. Let's move on. Adam Warlock stumbles forward, pained and trembling, as he says, "I can feel him in my mind. The darkness has returned." And Captain America is immediately concerned by that. Loki asks the obvious question. He says, "Who can make a golden god such as yourself tremble in fear?" And Venom speaks up with an answer he does not want to give, as he says, "Null." And it's not just Adam Warlock. Everyone feels it. Black Panther confirms Null's presence and rushes to protect Bast. Hela seems excited about Null's return, while Loki warns her not to get any ideas. And Hawkeye is very much confused. Didn't we destroy Null with like his own essence or something a while back? And that's when Bucky Barnes says that the Codex must have just been a temporary fix. Mr. Fantastic is already scanning, confirming the worst, as he says, it seems as though stars are being snuffed out as we speak. And Human Torch tries to hype up the team, but here's the thing, dropping the hammer, saying, this ain't Dracula. This is the actual God of Darkness. After learning this, Invisible Woman echoes the fear, asking, how do you fight a primordial cosmic force? Namor suggests that they may need to call on another primal force to counter Null, as Adam Warlock ends on a chilling note. I only pray that they are listening, or we are all doomed. And that, my rivals, is the entirety of the story of Marvel Rivals so far, as we're heading into season 3. Now, a couple of things that I want to mention. First of all, story's been great. I like the story a lot. Hellfire Gala was a banger. Let me know what you think down in the comments. There will be another timeline before season 3 begins where we will do all of these stories that we just covered in the new material. We will condense them into the recaps. I'll put that out sometime in the week of the new season. But let's talk about the new season real quick, man. Season 3, I'm not going to talk about any of the supposed leaks because honestly, I've just, seen headlines sometimes when I come across this stuff. I don't entirely know how confirmed it is or not, but if what I'm hearing is true, season 3 looks to be pretty cool. But even if we're not talking about leaks or whatever, what we just talked about in the stories, Null is coming back, so we're probably returning back to Clintar, which is very interesting. Are we going to get our first return to a map, right? Because we already have a Clintar map. Are we going to have like a different version of Clintar? That's gonna be very interesting to see. And it's looking very likely that one of the heroes dropping next season is going to be who they were talking about at the end here, where needing another force to counter Null. That's what Namor suggests. So that's gonna be very interesting. I've seen a couple of names. I don't know if they're leaked or just speculation, but I'm excited by all the names that I've seen. I'm not gonna say them again. I'm not gonna say any of the names. I don't want to potentially spoil it or anything for you guys. But season 3 is looking very cool. I'm excited, especially starting with season 3. Then the seasons are gonna be so much shorter. Things are gonna fly by. We're gonna get story. We're gonna get a lot of story now in a quicker amount of time. But new maps, new characters. How are you guys still liking the game? We are about almost 8 months in now. Almost 8 months into the game. I'll be honest, I still play it virtually on a daily basis. I still have a ton of fun with it. The story just gets more rich and deeper. I'm still loving this game pretty much as I did when it first launched. I still like it a lot. I know some people are falling off, but I'm not too much into the competitive scene and such. I'm just playing this game to feel like a superhero. I jump on Wolverine, I still feel like Wolverine. So I'm having a ton of fun still. But let me know what you think. How are you liking the game? How are you liking the story? Where do you think the story is gonna go? Let me know all of that in the comments down below. Thank you so much for watching. Please leave a like if you enjoyed it. It helps it get out to more people. If you want to help us out even further, super thanks are available. Get your comment highlighted. And with all that said, thank you for checking out another timeline, and thank you for watching. But you have to remember, even though I thank you for watching, you and we are rivals till the end. And it doesn't matter if you personally hand me an invitation to next year's Hellfire Gala, one where Ultron doesn't invade it, I am never going to forget that.